Good evening, everyone. We have a really interesting program for you tonight with Larry Falkin and Bob Gedert. We're going to roll out their smart trash program. So this is very exciting. It's going to be a hard sell, and we're really going to want to get some information, some feedback from you. So we're going to have a survey afterwards. So listen carefully.
Thank you, Jean. And my name's Bob Gedert, and I'm normally up here talking about recycling and zero waste. This time, I'm up here talking about trash and how we can reconfigure our trash collection program to encourage recycling, composting, and waste reduction. That's the goal there. Larry is going to be at the tail end of our presentation. He is going to poll the audience on your opinions and moderate our question and answer time period. So I will be presenting the PowerPoint before Larry comes up. And so you'll notice on the PowerPoint, January 6th, that's when we were supposed to be here. And guess what happened on January 6th? We had a nice snowstorm. So we got snowed out. So we're here today, February 3rd, in replacement of the January 6th presentation. And let's see.
You need to share.
Okay, I need to share. That's right. You told me that. I forgot. Let's go to share. Here we go. Got it? All right. And the arrow keys are not.
Page up, page down.
Page up, page down. Technical difficulties.
Of course. Always, always. Which one is the new one? It's the new one every time.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
Here we go.
All right. All right. So our goals on this presentation is waste reduction with smart trash. Our goal is to decrease landfilling and increase source reduction, recycling, and composting. That's our goal. We'll get into the details of what smart trash is. Taxpayer fairness to bring transparency, efficiency, and fairness to trash pricing. Cost reduction to reduce trash collection costs, and sustainability. Waste reduction advances, climate protection, zero waste, job creation, and other sustainability goals. The starting point, can I get rid of that? I don't know how to get rid of that little black space up there, but little nuisance space up there. But our starting point is the Green Cincinnati plan. And we want to satisfy a couple of goals out of the Green Cincinnati plan. To increase waste diversion by 10% by 2028. That's only three years away, but ongoing as we renew this Green Cincinnati plan, we're always working on waste diversion goals. And this plan, the smart trash plan, it does address the waste diversion goals. We also want to work on sustainability, diverting 50% of organics, including yard trimmings and food waste from the landfill. And the goal of smart trash is to encourage people to recycle more, to compost more, and to work on waste reduction. It's a pricing mechanism that would encourage people to do those elements. And we're ready for the next slide. You can't do it, so that's all right. We can live with it then. There we go. All right. The current structure is a tax. It's a trash tax, as we call it, and the trash tax is sort of deceiving. We call it a deception of some sort. There, it's Cincinnati trash is not free. If you live within the city of Cincinnati, you don't pay for trash directly for trash collection, but you pay for trash collection indirectly. And that's where the deception is to its residents. It never has been free, and despite what most of you read, when people move in, people move in from other communities where they're charged for trash, and I had a neighbor across the street that moved in, and he moved in from Columbus, and he said, well, how do I sign up to pay for trash collection? And he called the city and he said, no, it's free. So, no, it's not free. It's not free. So there's a hidden trash expense. The average Cincinnati household spends more than $150 per year on trash disposal through taxes. It's a little difficult to actually pinpoint how much that is. It's anywhere from $150 to $180 per household, somewhere in there. Larry and I is kind of looking through the the actual expenses of the city, and it's somewhere in that ballpark as you average it out. The hidden charges, taxes funded from a portion of your property tax, earnings tax, and stormwater fee. And it's not supported by the Green Cincinnati Plan and zero waste. It's not supportive of those goals. It does not incentivize waste reduction and recycling. And we can do better. A trash tax can be replaced with a smart trash fee. So when you're putting out your trash in the city of Cincinnati, you have this hidden tax. You're paying for it out of these various tax pools through the general fund. Cincinnati, the city council is paying for it out of these different tax pools. And citizens don't have this market-driven economic incentive to reduce their trash. And therefore, there's no push economically to recycle more, to compost more, to reduce your waste floors. You put out lots of trash out at the curb, and there's no economic incentive to reduce that. Go to the next slide here. There we go. If you're in an apartment complex, the tenants pay the trash tax too. Many tenants pay the city income tax. If you're working within a city job inside the city, landlords pay property tax and stormwater fees and passing them on to the tenants within their rent. Tenants in large buildings pay twice. The landlord hires a private trash hauler and passes that cost on through rent. So the tenants are paying into the tax structure that pays for city collection of trash, but then also pays for a private trash hauler in their large apartment complex. The double taxation system, which in our smart trash system would be eliminated. The city will be promoting later on this year, the city will be promoting an apartment and condo recycling program in 2025. A little bit of help in trying to eliminate some of this double taxation, but it doesn't eliminate the entire problem. But we do look forward to this recycling program. The proposal, getting into the proposal of smart trash. Currently, trash collection and disposal are primarily funded by taxes, as I've mentioned. We propose to fund these expenses through a smart monthly fee specified within the water bill. Everybody gets a water bill, okay? Each household would be billed monthly based on the size of their trash container selected. I'll get into that in a future slide in a little bit more detail. Recycling and organics collections would remain city funded at no extra charge. So we're talking specifically about the size of your trash container. So utility fee charged in proportion to the amount of trash the household generates. So the more trash, the larger the can, the less trash, the smaller the trash can. Similar to payment structures for other utilities such as water and electricity. So your water bill, you can control your water bill by lowering the amount of water that you use. So therefore, that's somewhat in your control to minimize and conserve water you can save on your water bill. Likewise, on electricity, you can turn off your lights, save on your electricity as much as you can, go to LED lights instead of incandescent lights. Try to reduce your electric bill and get your electric bill as low as possible. That's in your household expenses. You're controlling your household expenses on water and electricity. The smart trash goes along that same parallel pathway of lowering your trash bill by controlling the amount of trash you set out at the curb with a smaller trash cart. And the way you get the smaller trash cart is you recycle more, you put out more organics or compost more in the backyard, and you reduce your waste flow. And therefore you have less trash. So you control your trash bill. You toss less and you pay less. And the trash bill is based on the trash cart size selected, 96 gallon, 64 gallon, 35 gallon trash carts. And here's a visual explanation there of how it looks. 96, 64, 35. I don't have a visual explanation, right here physically, but the 96 gallon is about that tall. And it's fairly large. The 35 gallon will hold two kitchen trash bags. About 2 kitchen trash bags.
What about 24 gallon?
It can, and we can go down to 24 too. Could go down to 24. The trash cans,
The existing,
64.
Yeah, the current one.
Current ones are 64 out in the city
the
right now.
existing trash cans are 64 and most of the existing recycling containers are 96s.
Wow.
So in most of our homes, not everybody, because you can request different, but most of the existing recycling containers are 96. They're bigger than the trash containers, which are 64s.
And I pulled these photos from the manufacturer.
So is that from Cascade or from where?
Rarick,
Okay.
Bob?
not the manufacturer.
Well, Rarick is 95 and 64, or 95 and 65, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely, not 96.
Not 96.
No.
Okay, I'm wrong on that. Thank you for that correction then. Okay.
Another question. Aside from the size of the, hello, Mike.
Okay, I think it's on.
Yes.
Aside from the size of the container, is there any way with like an RFK, oh my God. An RF
Put on the ground now.
with chip, is there any way with a chip to monitor how often?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, the city has a computer program, RFID programming to monitor its recycling program and know how often a household sets out its recycling cart, and it can do so with its trash carts as well too. So modifications of its trash carts can be done that way as well too. Absolutely, yes. And that would be beneficial for information about this type of program here.
Would that also affect how much you're paying? Like if you only use the smallest one and only dump it?
you only use the smallest one and only have it dumped every 2 months or something, would that reduce your bill?
It can, it's a complication in the billing structure and the accounting structure possibly could accommodate that, but I have not seen that done in another city.
So if you move closer and closer to zero waste, it'd be nice if that could be reflected.
I really like it. We would have to research whether that could be mechanically done through the accounting system. But I like what you're proposing, and Larry's writing notes there, so.
I just added it to our post-lecture survey.
Yeah. Excellent. The new system would be fully funded by the trash cart fees. So we'd be moving off the tax structure and into the trash cart system, the utility billing structure. and the city establishes an enterprise fund, and it's a restricted fund for the trash expenses. So the city could not fund playgrounds or police department or fire department out of that fund. It would be strictly for the trash department.
If this was a real important problem, we would save money, but are you saying the city would reduce our taxes by the $150? I mean, how do we save? I don't get that.
At the bottom part of this slide, when you get to that point right there, you're just a second ahead of me. The current trash taxes can be either, a couple of options there. And when we get into question and answer, we'll get into more detail on that. The current trash taxes, once the city implements something like this, we could eliminate those current taxes that pay for the trash service. And that reduces those taxes in some way or other. We'd have to go through the city auditor's office and find a way to reduce those taxes. That's one option. Or we could dedicate those revenues to a new public purpose of some sort. Could be affordable housing or some other type of public purpose that the citizens want. And that would be decided by city council. But your voices, all of the citizens' voices count in that discussion. That's a very, very important discussion right there. Yeah, Steve.
Every time they take something, every time the city puts us on a fee, like a stormwater fee or that kind of stuff, we pay more for the fee than we paid in taxes if it were just done by the city.
And
Our cost of living always goes up.
And I've heard that, and it would be our choice in proposing this, that it would be revenue neutral and we would not have an increase. And that would be to the points being raised here. We would not want to see an increase in expenses to the citizens. I mean, that's a very legitimate concern. Because we've seen that time and
just
time
assume let
again.
the city pay for it,
Yeah.
and pay for it in taxes.
Yeah.
Everything, including stormwater.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with you, but that concern is on the table. Yeah.
Keep it on the table.
Yeah, definitely. Households, back to the household level, households control their trash expenses, as I've mentioned, by recycling, composting, reducing their waste, and thus selecting a smaller trash cart. So assuming that we start with a 64-gallon cart, experiment with it, and then you find that you're only filling your 64-gallon cart up to 2/3 of the level, maybe half that level, then you can switch down to a 35-gallon level.
1/4 that level.
Maybe 1/4, maybe we would introduce the 24-gallon cart size. Then, less waste generated by each household results in lower costs for the household and the city. Because just think, if there is less waste generated, it's not just switching some of the waste to recycling and some of the waste to composting, but this type of program in other cities also reduces the amount of waste generated as people start thinking about their purchasing habits at the grocery store and retail and generate less waste. If there's less waste going to the landfill, the city actually saves money. So there's a reduction in cost to the city as well too. The city can reduce trash collections expenses overall and less trash trucks on the road. Reduction in cost to the city may be dedicated to a citizen designated use, or could be a tax savings to the citizens as well too. And that's a discussion point in the future as well too. This incentivizes recycling and waste reduction. Households can save money by controlling trash expenses. Residents can select the cart size and service that best fits their needs. There are large families, there are small families, there's large generators and there's small generators. You fit the program as you see fit. Residents pay for their own level of service and not their neighbor's wastefulness. That's an important point. Right now, the way the system works, the price is levelized across the city. Everybody pays through the tax structure, and everybody can waste as much as they want. And here, you're paying for only your own waste. in this system. The system motivates people to recycle more and think about how to generate less waste. It gets you thinking about your waste. The pricing that it's a pricing system that promotes transparency, efficiency, and fairness by charging households according to the amount of trash they generate. The program can be utilized for single-family homes and small apartments up to 4 units using wheeled carts. That's how the city uses the wheeled cart program in single-family and up to 4-unit apartments. However, the apartment manager of larger apartments, 5 units and above, can voluntarily use a modified smart trash program for these larger apartment complexes. So this is an adaptable program for large apartment complexes. Residents, and this pops up in the conversation, so we do need to address these issues as well. Residents will need to accommodation to collect large bulky items such as mattresses. You buy a new mattress, what do you do with the old mattress? Furniture, swapping out furniture, electronics, and etc. We need answers to those issues as we transition to this, because you buy into a small trash cart, can't fit these large items in there. So the city needs a flexible bulky collection system. Communities often increase the frequency of such bulky collections when implementing a variable trash rate system such as smart trash. Littering and illegal dumping can be an issue when residents pay for trash, and communities often add resources for litter patrol, fines, and cleanups to address and just put in the face at the beginning of the program, addressing the illegal littering program issues there. Equity, there's equity through the smaller waste fees, and that's offered with the incentive to reduce waste and using a smaller trash cart. And elderly often generate less waste, thus benefiting from lower weight rates through smart trash systems. And economic disadvantaged residents could be offered economic incentives through city council through utility rate reductions. And that's a city council discussion there. Citizens are more engaged in the services that are provided through smart trash. Who engages in trash collection today? Nobody even thinks about it. They just set the trash at the curb. But in this type of system, citizens are engaged, and they help self-select what size trash cart they pick. And they are engaged with city council on the tax reduction discussion. So there's engagement by the citizens in this system. 8,700 US communities use this trash model. So it's working in 8,700 communities across the US. When people generate less waste and recycle more, fewer natural resources are used, and there is less pollution from manufacturing. Valuable landfill space is conserved, and it stimulates job creation and supports the local economy. So those are selling points if you're not convinced yet. So that concludes my PowerPoint, and I introduced Larry for a poll, an opinion poll, and then a question and answering period.
Could you take one question right now?
Questions?
Yes, we can. I'm gonna try to get out of the PowerPoint so that we, for those online, I guess I need Barry's assistance here.
So, if I remember correctly, about, 15 years ago, with OES, the city tried to create a pay-to-throw trash program, and I think there was a referendum that blocked that. And is that referendum still in effect? And is this a way to get around that referendum?
There's two answers to your question. One, what was proposed a number of years ago, about a dozen years ago, was not a pay-as-you-throw, but rather a flat fee. There was a referendum, and it was rejected. And there was a charter, in addition to the charter that said city council cannot, implement a trash fee. So in order for us to take this path, we need to amend the charter.
Okay,
So you're correct in your memory there. There wasn't a full-fledged pay-as-you-throw, smart trash proposal like this. We feel what we're proposing is 10 times better than what was proposed 10, 12 years ago.
but we will have to overcome that hurdle.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Larry?
All right, let's take one or two more questions and then I'm gonna go into the poll. So, yeah.
So just a couple of comments. I don't know how you did the
The cost structure to figure out how much it would cost. Now it's on. Oh, no, it's go on. But seemingly it wouldn't cost very much less for the garbage to pick up a smaller tub than a bigger tub. Right? So it's the cost is those guys working in their trucks and going from house to house to house.
So we're still fine tuning the numbers, so we're not ready to talk precise numbers yet. But in round numbers, approximately 20% of the trash disappears when you have a pay-as-you-throw system. So if we're talking now about 100,000 tons a year, under the new program, there would only be 80,000 tons a year that you need to deal with. 20% disappears. Part of that goes to recycling, part of that goes to yard waste collection, and part of that goes to people just not taking all that styrofoam packaging, shopping differently. So if you look at the cost of the trash program going round numbers, let's say it goes from 15 million to 12 million, 20% reduction, because the savings is in running less trucks. If you cover the city with 10 trucks a day now and the volume goes down, then you cover the city with 8 trucks a day.
But that's
That's
kind of
where
what
you
I'm
save the
saying.
money.
I don't think you can go from 10 to 8 trucks because the majority of their time is spent stopping at each house.
Yeah.
Versus like, one of my kids lives in a community where their recycling is so strong and so they have recycling every single week and they have composting every single week that pay for themselves and the trash comes every other week. And they are in a family of 4, they have babies, they have diapers, whatever. And because their recycling is so strong, they can fit all their trash and it's not stinky because you can put everything in the compost bin every
Okay.
week.
But back
So
to
they only
your
come every other
original
week.
point, the main thing that takes up time for a trash truck is driving back and forth to the landfill. They spend about an hour loading the truck. They spend about 2 hours going back and forth to the landfill. So the limiting factor is the size of the truck, not how many stops they have to make.
And if they
If you
only have to
have
come every
less
other
at each
week,
stop,
yeah.
you can make more stops, fill the truck, and still make 2 trips to the landfill a day, which is what they do. So you do run less trucks. Sally?
Also, do you want to talk about tipping fee? The tipping fee at the landfill?
And what about the tipping?
You'd save on tipping fees with less trash.
Well, you pay per ton, so if 20% of the trash goes away, then 20% of the tipping fees go away.
What are you gonna do with all the laid-off drivers that get 95% unemployment pay for the next 3 years?
We'll use them to drive recycling and yard waste trucks.
I was wondering if there'd be enforcement of keeping all your stuff. Okay, I was wondering if there would be any enforcement of just making sure you don't overflow your trash can, because we have neighbors that there's as much outside the can as in the can. And they may want to get a smaller one to save money, but they may not fit it all in there.
Yeah, so as we get into the details of a smart trash program or as a pay-as-you-throw program, and again, there's like over 8,000 communities that are doing this. Typically, what happens is you have your cart and you're limited to the volume of the cart. If you periodically have more than fits, you can buy a bag for an extra $1 or $2 tag that you put on the bag to show that it's paid for, and then you can set out an extra item with your cart. And so there is some getting used to the rules of a new program. There is some enforcement that needs to take place with any program, teaching people the rules. But the general idea is, yes, occasionally there's extra trash most of these programs give you some number of free tags each year for extra items, because right, 4th of July and Christmas, everybody has extra trash. So you need one of the tags for those weeks and a couple other times a year. But most of the time, our cart is the right size for us. And if not, we just have to conserve on trash. So let's go to the survey, because part of what we're doing tonight, this is our first public discussion about the smart trash program. And we're testing messaging and we're testing how we're communicating. And so what I want you to do is both respond to me in real time and put your answers down on the survey form. The first thing we want to know is, after hearing the presentation that you just heard, how supportive are you of a campaign to adopt a smart trash fee in Cincinnati on a scale of, 0, I hate it, to 10, all in? Hold up some fingers for me. Let me see where you're at on this. I see a 5, a 10, 10, 10, 8, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Okay, getting a lot of 10s and a few not so much 10s. What is it about what you heard that for those of you who are all in, you really liked? Or for those of you who are not all in, what is your reservation?
There was one question here that doesn't feel like she got an answer, a full answer. She would
No.
like it.
No, it wasn't an answer. I just was suggesting that if you have a strong recycling program, you only have to pick up trash every other week.
I totally agree.
That would be the goal to
Yes.
get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
instead of giving everyone smaller tubs, is only pick up trash every other week.
And Seattle, Washington,
Yes.
Seattle, Washington's experimenting with that. And Austin, Texas wants to experiment with
My
that.
daughter lives in Vermont, and that's what they do.
We had a discussion about that in city.
No, yeah, hers is the same size.
Let's focus the discussion forward.
I just want to make sure that everybody, when you speak into the mic, they hear it better at home. That's why I'm passing the mic.
Yeah. And a number of years ago, we had a discussion within city government about trying to make trash every second week. During the winter, that works pretty well. During the summer, stuff gets really stinky. So, so there's a sanitary health problem going to every 2 weeks during the summertime when stuff goes bad fast. Now, if you get all your compostables out of the trash, then it works because there's nothing in the trash that gets stinky. Okay. Second question on the survey. If you were given a choice of cart size, how likely would you be to pick a cart smaller than your current one? Again, 0 to 10 scale. Let me see numbers. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 7, 10, 10, 10.
Yeah, if you've already
Eight.
used the smallest one, which is what I do. You can't, how do you answer that one?
Well, I mean, right now, the city of Cincinnati only offers one size trash cart. It's 48 gallons. So if you live in Cincinnati, that's what you have now.
I must have gotten it from you guys somehow, especially because it's tiny.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
it rolls.
Yeah.
There are smaller ones out there.
Our neighbor has one.
Yeah, there are smaller ones out there.
You're right.
As an
There
example.
are smaller carts. They're relatively rare. And so forgive me for misspeaking, but you're right.
Yeah.
He's there.
So it seems like most of the people in the room, if they had a smaller option, would go down. And some of you already have the smaller option. Okay.
I have a household of 2 adults. I compost pretty significantly in my own backyard. And I recycle, thanks to the recycle hub, I can get rid of a lot of stuff. And I try not to buy anything I can't get rid of, although that's kind of hard to do. But if you have the recycle hub, you can get rid of a lot of that styrofoam crap that comes in the packaging. So bottom line is, I have one of the big, body bag recycling things from Rumpke, and it's 1/3 full once a week. So I just say, I'm an average person who has enlisted a lot of diversion, and I have very little trash, but I still pay a lot of money every 3 months to Rumpke.
Larry,
I don't live in Cincinnati.
when you get to a good point, we have a lot of questions on the chat.
Okay,
But did you?
let me
did
do
you
a
get-
couple more off of here and then we'll take a break and take some of
Did
the
you
chat
get the answers
questions.
when you asked for number one? If you didn't put 10, what were your objections? Or if you did put 10, what, you didn't get many answers for that? Were you looking for more answers for that?
If people have more comments that they want to add, yeah, I'd like to hear what people were thinking when they said 10 or when they said, especially when they said less than 10.
And I'll give you one.
Okay.
My biggest reason for being supportive of it is exactly why I think we want to do it in general, is it will incentivize more and more people not to create trash and instead to recycle. So that would be my number one reason for doing it.
The next question, I just asked you whether you would get a smaller cart. The similar but different question is, would you actually generate less trash if you had a program that charged you based on how much trash you generate?
We already recycle and decompost and reduce to the best of our ability, we probably will not be reducing.
Right, if you're one of those, advanced recyclers who is already doing all the diversion, then it's fair game to say, no, I wouldn't generate less. I've already minimized it.
But doesn't
I mean, it's helpful for us to know how many people won't reduce because they don't care and can't be bothered. How many people can't reduce because they're already reducing as much as they can.
So would you prefer to put a 0 in and explain that, or put the 10 so your survey looks better?
I would prefer you to be honest, and if the answer is 0, put a 0 and put a comment so we know how to interpret it.
Okay.
Anybody want to say something about, whether or not you would be reducing the trash you generate and why? Yeah.
Well, yeah, we compost, we, half of our basement is filled with, we compost and half of our basement is filled with things that we will be taking to the hub this week. And so, Bill only puts out our big wheeler like once a month. And so, I mean, I don't think it would be much more, but would it make more sense to have a small one that we put out every week or a big one that we put out once a month?
Yeah, so based on that, let me skip to question number 12, which is not on your, I handed out to somebody the survey that I wrote my notes on. Who's got question 12?
I have 12.
You have question 12.
Can we write it in once you read it?
Yes, write it in. How important to you is it that the program include not just charging by the size of the container, but charging by the frequency that the container is out? Should it be $15 a month for the minimum size container, or should it be $5 per tip for the medium size? That math doesn't work. $20 for the large container or $5 per tip for the large container. In other words, there's 4 weeks in a month typically. So if you got $20 a month for the large container or $5 per tip for the large container, that would come out to the same thing if your container is out every month. But if you only put your container out twice, then you'd save money by only putting it out twice during the month.
1 to 10?
So on a scale of 0 to 10, how important is it for you to be charged per tip? Okay, can you see fingers? 10, 1, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Yes. Okay, most people said they want to be charged per frequency. We have one dissenting vote. What do you?
Yeah. That's for the small. I'm getting it out once.
I take it your cart is typically out every week?
I
I can't perceive what the difference would be. I mean, it would be different in cost. I don't see how it would be different to me. Whether they came once a month or once a week.
Okay.
I
I
don't.
mean, it doesn't have to be an either or, does it? You could be charged less for the small bin and then even less if you only put it out once a month.
$40.
Right. We're assuming that you would have a choice of cart size, but do you also have a choice of cart frequency?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of complexity to the program to be able to keep track of how often the cart is out. To be able to automatically bill people once a month is a simpler program administratively. If we're gonna take on the cost of the RFID tags and the RFID readers and the more sophisticated billing system, the payback has to be worth it. And so that's getting a sense of how many people would really value that pay per tip rather than pay per month.
Gary,
Larry,
we have a
I
lot of
one-
questions online.
Okay,
I have a
Barry, do
question.
you want to
Do
read
you
it?
want to unmute? Do you want to go through and read them up there or?
I can read them off, and if you want to do them quick fire,
Sure.
want to answer
Larry?
quick fire?
I just have one little question over here. There's concern that people will get confused. And confused about what they're paying and what they're not paying. If they put it out every time, or if they put it out
microphone.
every other time.
We can't hear you, Jean.
Yeah, please use the mic.
Microphone lady. There's some confusion here about whether people will think about these things, whether they put it out every other time or every time, how much they're gonna save.
So if there's confusion about how the program would work, that means in our first pitch, we're not articulating it well. That's good feedback for us. We know we need to practice our messaging. If the concern is that you won't remember exactly how many times you put it out, you have a feeling that they're charging you too much, but you're not sure, you've got more record keeping to do in order to keep the trash program honest, then that is a concern that we need to hear and think about. The more complex we make the program, the more likely it is. I mean, in the recycling program, we have the RFID tags and we have the readers on the truck. And we know that we get some ghost reads on the RFID tag. If you happen to store your cart too close to the curb, right? Some people pull them back into their garage. Some people have houses where they're right at the curb and there's no place to pull it back. And so it might be so close to the street that the truck reads it when it goes by, even though it's not out. Those kinds of real world problems, we would have to wrestle those to the ground and figure them out. But yes, it's possible to have an incorrect count. And is it your job to keep track, and how do you prove that your cart wasn't out in a month? Those are the kinds of complexities we're gonna have to figure out if we go to that next level of complexity and charge per tip.
So Larry, how do you discourage someone selecting a small car and well, it's. Yeah, sorry. Someone selecting a small trash can and getting discouraged, how do you discourage the illegal discarding remaining trash by the side of the road? Illegal dumping.
So communities that have these trash programs have a lot of experience with this. And in general, the experience is when you adopt a volume-based trash fee, there is, in the short term, an increase in illegal dumping. And within about 3 to 6 months, the level of illegal dumping returns to its original level. There's a certain amount of resentment. I'll be damned if I'm gonna pay another $3 for that extra baggage. People who are basically law abiding After a brief departure, will come back to being law abiding, and people who never were, never were. And so there needs to be an enforcement program. There needs to be a perception in the community that there are consequences for illegal dumping. If you are in a neighborhood now where there is a perception that there is no consequence for illegal dumping, that's why you have an illegal dumping problem. And so there needs to be a credible enforcement presence, but the people who are basically law abiding will continue to be basically law abiding. That's most of us.
Next,
Not all of us.
next, oh, okay.
Maybe I missed something, but in an apartment building, who would be paying? Would the tenants have individual costs, or would the owner still be footing the bill for all this?
So when we talk about apartment buildings, the city provides trash service for 1 to 4 family units. The city does not provide trash service for larger apartments.
Oh, they don't?
And the law in Cincinnati is that it is the landowner's responsibility to provide trash service for the tenants. So it is the landowner who's paying for the trash and then recovering it from the tenants in the rent. And so when we say even tenants are paying the stealth tax for trash, it's because the landlord is paying the property tax and turns around and recovers the trash portion of it, covers the whole thing from the tenants. And under a smart trash program, it will again be the landowner who gets the water bill, who would be paying the trash fee, and the tenant would be paying the landlord back as part of their rent.
You got a lot more, Gene, you got a lot more online.
Another online question. I have a large trash can because I want to be able to handle that occasional large trash and think parties at home, like Super Bowl party. Normally, I would fill that can less than every 3 weeks. If I get a small trash can, how do you recommend handling that occasional bad week?
Typically, volume-based trash programs sell tags that allow you to put out an extra bag with your container. And so depending on the frequency of your parties, you could buy a supply of the tags for the extra volume when you have the extra volume. That's how most communities deal with it. If we went with the more sophisticated program and charged per tip, then you would have the ability to get the large container and only put it out every 3 weeks when you only need to put it out 3 weeks, but put it out every week when you have a party. If we went to that more sophisticated program.
Yep, we got many more.
Lots of questions.
Is the waterworks willing to take on the billing part of the plan?
The first thing to say is we haven't spoken to Waterworks about that yet. Waterworks handles billing and collection for a lot of organizations, including the sewer department, including entities that aren't even located in Cincinnati. And so we believe that they would be willing to do that. If not, we would have to figure out another way. But mostly Waterworks runs billing and collection, and they charge for their service and they make money doing it. So they should be willing to do it.
And I would add, of the 8,700 communities that have this system, at least 5,000 have a tag along to the water bill.
I have a question here.
Hi, I'm curious about Rumpke and how they would react to this. I don't know if these 8,700 communities have the same company that does their trash and recycling, which, I mean, we actually live in Sims Township, so we have Rumpke. I don't know what percentage Rumpke has in the city versus the other, whatever. So I'm curious what kind of pushback, feedback you would get from Rumpke. Do we know, I just know there are certain people that don't want to pay for recycling, so they refuse to recycle. This might help reduce, trying to reduce their trash, but then if they have to pay or receive to pay more to recycle, how do you offset that perception? Those are questions.
Yeah, so two parts to that question. The first is, what would Rumpke think of it? And knowing the Rumpke family well, my first answer is they will find a way to make a profit on any system we design. They are good business people. And, I managed the city recycling contract for a long time, so I've worked fairly closely with the Rumpkes. They were actually good partners for the city recycling program. There's a lot of people that love to hate Rumpke. I'm personally not one of them. As trash companies go, they're better than most. The second part of your question was,
Well, I don't know what the percentage of customers recycle in Cincinnati. But if the goal of this is to get more people to recycle, less trash, but then they have to pay for recycling.
so in Cincinnati right now, residents do not, what residents pay doesn't depend on whether they recycle or not, and it doesn't depend upon whether they put out trash or not. Both of those are funded out of the city taxes that come from the city general fund. So residents think trash is free and they think recycling is free. In fact, they're paying for both of those things.
Okay.
Under the program as redesigned, they would be paying for trash. Recycling would still be paid out of their taxes. So if recycling is free and trash costs, that's where the motivation is to push more material into recycling.
But my thought is, if that's, see, we pay separately for our recycling, right? So,
Move to Cincinnati.
well, we're working on it. Waiting for working on it, but my thought would be that Rumpke would try to increase recycling rates through our stealth tax. But I don't know, could that happen? Because we're gonna be recycling.
So periodically, the city's recycling contract gets rebid. Right now, your contract runs for how many more years?
For 10 years, it just got executed last week.
Okay, we've got Rumpke under a 10-year contract, we're good.
We're not worried about that.
Jeff, you listening? We're good.
How about another question here?
Yeah.
If the city pulls a trash tax from property taxes, there'll be no savings. The city will still have X amount of our property tax. But that gets to how to handle the property tax transfer there.
Right. The city right now raises about $15 million in various taxes that it uses to fund the trash program. If we put the trash program into an enterprise fund, and that enterprise fund needs about 12 million a year because the volume goes down, then the question is, what does the city do with the 15 million in taxes it's currently collecting? If they were to reduce taxes by 12 million, and we're increasing the fee by 12 million, then it's a wash. And they could use that 3 million in excess revenue to pay for some of the things that they currently want that they can't afford to pay for. Or they could reduce the taxes by 15 million and there'd actually be net savings for the residents. It's gonna be a discussion with city council how to do that.
The next question, rather than cart size, could the charge be based on weight of the trash measured and tagged to ID with each pickup? And I do have a quick answer for Larry, and Larry can tag along to my answer. The state of Ohio prohibits weight-based trash pickup from the Weights and Measures Division.
Yeah, there is technology available to put scales on trash trucks and charge by the weight of the tip. delicate electronic equipment and trash trucks are not really compatible environments. You don't want to rely on the accuracy of a scale that's been riding around on a trash truck for very long. In addition to that, some of the things that we're most concerned about in the trash stream weigh almost nothing. We would love people to cut down on styrofoam. A weight-based system is not going to discourage styrofoam. So we're really more concerned about volume than we are about weight.
There was another question in the room back there.
It's not a question, it's more of a statement. I'm concerned. This is more of a statement. I guess my concern is that the perception is that we in the city do not pay for trash. I'm 78 years old. I've lived in the city all my life. We've never paid for trash. So that I think to implement this where people are having to pay or put tags is going to be a challenge. I'm not saying it's not doable, but it is too bad you're not able to start in a community where they're already having to pay their trash. And then maybe they would make some better connection. That's all I'm saying. I just see it as, and for me, I live in a condo, I'm retired. So I do pay some property tax, but a lot of this trash is even hidden because in the water is part of our fees. So, you know, then the condo group is gonna have to look about adjusting the fees for the water. It's doable, but it's gonna be the perception is gonna be difficult.
So
Hard sell.
I think you're exactly right, that the crux of the messaging is if people believe that trash is free, they will never vote for a trash fee. And the idea that you get something for nothing takes a certain, to believe that takes a certain naivete. And so once we start saying trash is not free, trash has never been free, you pay for trash in Cincinnati, you pay for it through your taxes. There's a better way to pay for it. We have to convince people that trash is not free, but that shouldn't be a hard sell because of course it's not free, right?
And that's your question 5 anyway. Well, what do you call this?
And we might actually get to question 5.
Another question that I do want to get to from the remote audience, how to prevent bad neighbors from putting their trash into your cart? I think that's a good question.
My trash being discovered by Smith and Wesson.
How to prevent bad neighbors from putting their trash in your cart?
That's a realistic question. And most people, except on trash day, have their cart someplace that's not publicly accessible. But some places have it just sitting behind the building where it is accessible. Once you put it at the curb and all your trash is in it, you don't really care if one of your neighbors fills up the empty space in it. You might even work out a cooperative arrangement with your neighbors, right? If you have a person who lives alone, who lives next door to a family of 5, maybe that person who lives alone helps out take some of the trash from the family of 5. Why not? As long as you have space in your container. But yes, there are ways to put locks on the lids of the cart or to put cameras on the place where you store your cart. If it's a problem, there are ways to address it. It'll be a relatively uncommon problem, but for a particular individual, it might be a problem.
I'd just like to add, I'm sort of nocturnal, I work at night. So I'm up when the trash gets collected and the recycling. I generate perhaps a basketball sized amount of trash every month. Right? Everything else is recycling or hoarding, I'm afraid, at the moment until I get to the hub. But I don't feel like a bad neighbor. I feel like I'm reducing. I do at 3 a.m. go see if there's a lot of room in someone else's container, and I put my little basketball thing of trash in there. And I feel like I'm actually reducing the amount of times people have to dump a largely empty cart. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad neighbor practice.
I think the point on this discussion is you size the cart to your family's need and not to the amount that's in the cart at the end of the day on collection day. So it's, if you're sizing down to a 35-gallon cart and somebody stuffs another bag in there, that doesn't increase your cost at all. It's, you know, somebody comes up, your neighbor uses it and puts another bag in it and there's room for another bag. That doesn't increase your cost. You're being billed by the size of the cart that you ordered.
Okay, next question.
Another question here. Who pays for all that trash dumped by people onto the side of the street, and those out of the way areas that they have found that can be thrown in secretly?
The city has an illegal dump cleanup program. There is a crew in our public services department who is assigned on a regular basis to go clean illegal dumps. There are habitual illegal dumping locations that get cleaned on a regular cycle. It's a problem and it's an expensive problem. And this program is not going to eliminate illegal dumping. If we get some additional resources in illegal dump enforcement, we can reduce illegal dumping. The most important thing is that we don't worsen it by this program, and we're pretty sure that we won't.
And also illegal dumping is mostly contractor waste. It's not usually just household waste.
So what was said is that the illegal dumping is mostly done by contractors, not households. When we do those illegal dump cleanups, what we find is mostly pickup truckloads of roofing shingles or pickup truckloads of sheetrock. It's mostly not a load of kitchen waste. Sometimes, but not usually.
I would, one person says, I would go with a zero interest. Because I think the 20% reduction would end up in the Mill Creek and valleys in our community, not that this would not be the case. This plan would make it worse. I am glad we put the amendment in the charter to keep this from happening. So we have a critic there.
Yeah, really.
You know, on any issue, there will be a range of opinions and happy to hear from that one. I don't personally agree with it, and from the polling we've done in this room, most of the people in the room don't agree with that perspective. Certainly, there's already illegal dumping in the Mill Creek. I personally am involved in Mill Creek cleanups on a regular basis, and I can tell you a lot of trash ends up there. Will this worsen that situation? The experience of the 8,000 communities that adopted it say, no, it doesn't worsen the situation.
I have lots of questions. Sorry.
We're glad to do.
Again, we live in Sims Township, but I was involved. Sorry. So I know that the city and the county has worked for a long time to try to get reasonable composting started. So I don't know where we are in the city with that. Is there some still, I know there was like a pilot with curbside composting.
Well, with the composting right now, actually with the county, we recently done a study, and so.
Can you repeat that, Sue?
The county recently did a study on composting and what infrastructure we really need for the amount of organics. So we'll be, so that study was just completed, and we're gonna be discussing it at the next policy meeting at the end of the month.
So my suggestion would be.
So for those of you who don't know Sue, Sue is the city of Cincinnati's recycling coordinator. Thanks for being with us this evening, Sue.
Sorry. So could we not use whatever tax revenue is saved or diverted to composting program?
Sure.
Yeah, that is certainly a potential use.
Sorry, one more question. I don't know, what is the process? I know you're introducing this to us, but what are next steps to the voters? Do we have to vote on it? How does this pass or not?
So because there is currently a charter provision that says that the city cannot charge for waste collection, it would take a charter amendment, and that means there needs to be a vote of the people. That can happen in two ways. Charter amendments can be initiated by city council, or charter amendments can be initiated by the petition process. And we are not far enough along yet to know exactly what the strategy will be for getting smart trash adopted. It does need to be a vote of the public.
I have one more I'd like to add. This commenter says this is an intellectual endeavor. Those who are not intellectual will tend to not understand this. I am not comfortable with this. How would we address this issue?
This is being, people, there are a few people in the room looking on this way too.
Yes.
They seem to be saying they don't understand it.
I just want to point out when it comes to illegal dumping, the dumping that carries the highest fines, tires are the easiest to clean up after.
And so the question from the, from online. What was the question?
That it's an intellectual
It's
endeavor.
right. So part of the messaging, part of what we need to do in trying out messages is figure out what messages are going to resonate, what messages people are going to hear and respond to. And there are different audiences that will respond to different communication styles. Just using the phrase communication styles takes me out of the communication sweet spot for a portion of the audience, right? Need to learn to use common short language. You know, do we call it a stealth trash fee, or do we call it a hidden trash fee, or do we call it, you know, what is the messaging that's going to resonate? If we call it a stealth trash fee, does that offend people because it's too edgy? Well, that's one of the questions that's on here, isn't it?
Yeah,
Why don't we-
number 5, there it is.
Number 5, what phrase best describes the current system of trash funding? Do we call it a trash tax? Do we call it a stealth trash fee? Do we call it a free trash collection? Let me see, besides circling one of these on your piece of paper, let me see a show of hands. How many of you like the phrase trash tax to describe the current system? 4, that's 6. How many of you like the stealth trash fee? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8, 9, 9. How many think it's free trash collection?
I know it
2.
I know it isn't.
We know it isn't, but it's idea. I gotta go.
That's what it's always been called in Cincinnati, was free trash collection.
Yeah.
Hidden tax fee.
Yeah,
Who likes the phrase hidden tax fee?
it's good too.
Or just hidden tax? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Some of us raised our hands.
I think there seems to be a plurality for hidden tax. Thank you. Hidden tax. Question number 6 now. What phrase best describes the proposed system of trash funding? Do we like smart trash fee, volume-based trash fee, pay as you throw, save as you throw? How many people like smart trash fee?
There's no such thing as a smart fee.
3. How many people like volume-based trash fee? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. How many people like pay as you throw?
You're voting twice, right?
I took my.
4.
Okay.
How many people like save as you throw?
Like that one.
4.
No.
Anybody want to comment on any of these different messaging?
I wanted to make a comment about the, putting trash out and not being able to recover it. My sister and I own apartments in Indiana, and people sometimes do that, throw trash in there. There's all kinds of identifying information in there. My sister just calls them and says, you know, don't dump your trash in our garbage cans anymore. because they have all kinds, the trash that you throw away has a lot of personal identification in it. Your address, small town, you just look their phone number up. Or send them a letter to their address and say, you know, your trash was in my can, don't do that anymore. I'm just saying, it's not impossible. Now, tires don't have anybody's name on it. I don't know how you do that, but if you're just talking about putting a sack of trash in, and you don't want, or throwing it in a dumping area, you're still throwing out your personal identification information there. Just wanted to share that. Thank you.
So it's from your presentation that you're talking about several different funding sources for this tax. So don't tell me. And more one funding source that you're going to.
Let me try this. The bulk of the money for the trash program comes from the city's general fund. And the city's general fund comes from two main sources, property tax and income tax. The part of the trash program that doesn't come from the general fund comes from the stormwater fee. And we could have an interesting discussion about how they rationalize using the stormwater fee to pay for the trash program. But basically, the trash program keeps litter out of the gutters that washes into the stream and pollutes stormwater. All the trash that we find in the Mill Creek, a lot of it like washes in with from storms. And so that's why they use the stormwater fee to pay for the trash program.
What percentage is that, you know, the stormwater percentage?
We're still trying to pin it down exactly. I think it's about $1.5 million, so it's about 10% of the program. But don't quote me on that because we've done some public information requests to the city and we're still trying to parse out the responses that we're getting.
I don't really understand what this is all about, and I think a lot of it is that I live in an apartment complex. There are like 5 buildings. My building has 11 units. And Rumpke picks up our trash. We don't have recycling anymore because people were putting trash in the recycle bin. So I think, you know, maybe once this program gets more general publicity, maybe in the newspapers or on television, you know, radio, not NPR, I mean, just regular network TV, we non-intellectuals might get a better understanding of it.
Yeah, and the message for people in larger apartment buildings is the city does not provide you with trash collection. Your landlord has to contract with a private hauler and pay for it. And yet you still pay through your income tax for trash collection. And your landlord pays through property tax for trash collection. So you're paying for a service you don't get. And then you're also paying again when your landlord hires a hauler. And so Bob's comment earlier that people in large apartment buildings are paying twice. You're paying the, what did we say, hidden trash tax? And then you're also paying to have your trash hauled.
Don't understand why they conserve, why people turn off their lights is because we're gonna save a little money. That, you know, but if we can get, so I think that if they have to understand that to understand this. Analogy. They need that analogy. So
I think we have I think we're near the end of our time, so let me go through the remaining questions relatively quickly. How well do you understand how a smart trash program would work? Again, show me fingers. 9, 10, 10, 9, 5, 9. Now, if Sue doesn't understand it, we're in trouble. 8, 6, 9, 10, 9. We got medium high marks, I would say. We've got a little wordsmithing to do. If there are things about our explanation that you found particularly confusing, please put them in the comments so that we can use that feedback to say it better the next time. How likely would you be to volunteer your time to help with a smart trash campaign? Fingers, 6, 10, 10, 9, 0, 0, 8, 2, 2, 10, 7, 5, 5, 0, 7, 10. Got a range of answers on that one. Okay. How likely would you be to donate money to help with a smart trash campaign?
0.
All tens.
7, 5, 10, 5, 0, 5, 5, 7, 2, 5, 1, 5, 5. Okay. And then at the end of the survey, there are a couple of questions to help us sort of place you demographically so we can evaluate your feedback based on whether you live in a household that would be participating in a smart trash program and whether you're an owner or a tenant, those kinds of things. If you want to tell us who you are, that would be helpful as well. So that is the survey. Any questions that we haven't answered or any comments that people haven't had a chance to make? You can leave them at the table on your way out. Be great.
And I have a second one to fill out.
Out early and often.
Jane, we got a question back there.
Question.
Yes.
So, I live in Anderson and forever I've had to pay rent, an enormous amount. And, I mean, I know this doesn't have much to do with your presentation, but, on my street, it's kind of a busy street and actually, right across the street, all my neighbors live in the city. So they have the city that picks up their trash. And then where the double yellow line is, everybody on my side of the street is in Anderson. So I get to see all my neighbors wheeling their huge recycling, city of Cincinnati bins out, and I have to pay, which I've always done. And on my side of the street, there's only one other neighbor. There's 2 red recycling bins that get put out on a whole huge side of the street because we have to pay. But what I was gonna say is, I came here a couple years ago when Kathy had Colleen from the recycling hub, and I learned so much, and it changed the way I purchase things. I will never buy like multi-pack snacks or anything like that. I try to stay away from things that come in big packaging, but it taught me so much, and I live alone. But because of that, because I take my recyclables to the hub, styrofoam, plastic, all that stuff, chip bags, I throw about 1 bag of trash away a month. And I don't even compost. I want to learn how to compost, but I know if you have lawn clippings, you have to rotate them every day, and I'm kind of lazy. So I've been reading a lot about composting, and I don't know if I am ready to do it in my yard because of all the turning that you have to do. So, but anyway, thank you. I think your idea is great. Yeah, go ahead. I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you haven't started composting yet, or if you don't want to compost in your own yard, there are programs that allow you to compost. I know one of them is at Findlay Market. And so you can go down there. I'm not exactly sure where you go in Findlay Market because I haven't done it. It's right there. But
In the middle, Jean says, and so you can you just start participating in the program and then you take them a full one and then they give you an empty one. So it's super simple. And I think there are many others around town.
Yeah, there's starting to be a number of bucket exchange programs where you can bring a 5 gallon bucket of your compostables and exchange it for an empty bucket and they charge something for those services usually, but there are a number of places in town where you can swap out a full compost bucket for a clean compost bucket.
Just keep done. Are there any more online?
No, okay.
Just want to make sure. I also wanted to ask you, Larry, about your next presentation. I know that you have to present this before a lot of other community groups to get buy-in for this, because it looks like a uphill climb a bit to just explain all the complexities of it. Although it seems like an easy sell to me. It seems like to save trash and save money. What better can you do?
Preaching to the choir. I want to learn how to do anaerobic digestion. Which we still have been talking about this city having one at some point, but before you say anything about that, I think one of the most useful promotional things that you mentioned early on that will appeal to a lot of people in their selfishly, it was something about don't pay for your neighbor's wasteful habits or something like that, right? I thought that was a really good,
Okay, so that line was catchy for you. Right. The idea that if you have a program that is pay one price, use all you want, then you're subsidizing the people who are being wasteful. Yeah.
Maybe have one more question and then we're gonna call it.
do you have anything to say about anaerobic digestion?
Questions?
So the way to do anaerobic digestion is to eat a big meal and then go running.
Larry, can you talk about the next smart trash meeting in case anybody's so inspired that they would like to join the committee?
Oh, Bob, when is the next smart trash meeting?
Oh, that's a good question. We haven't said it yet, but it will email me and I will put you on the email list.
Type up the slide that has the email address on it. Did we have the final slide had the email address on it, right?
Easier said than done.
We have a trash work group that's been working through a number of these issues and discussions and figuring out how we should shape this program. And we would love to have you be part of the smart trash.
Ah.